Nathaniel Berg from Gothenburg, Sweden.
Hi, I'm Elise, known as Just Keep Cubing on YouTube, and I'm from Maryland in the United States.
I'm the former Swedish 4x4 annual holder.
I started cubing when I was 13 years old, and shortly after, in 2013, I created my YouTube channel.
And I'm the current world record holder for clock single with a time of 3.73 seconds.
Yes!
So Jason has invited us to his channel to do a color neutral experiment, and since I only solve on white,
And considering that I only solved white and yellow,
this might be a challenge for me.
this should be pretty interesting.
Are you cubing me?
You are watching Scrambled.
Scrambled.
Neutral. When we think of the word neutral in colors, we tend to think of white, black, gray, brown, maybe even beige, you know, earth tones. But when it comes to a Rubik's Cube, what exactly is neutral? Color neutralization. As you may have already seen for my solves, I'm color neutral, which means I start solving the cube on any of the 6 colors. However, a lot of people, like Nathaniel, only solve on white or yellow, or like Elise, who only solves on white. According to a 2015 Facebook poll in June in a community full of cubers, which 119 people participated in, 40% are color neutral, 36% say that they only solve on 2 colors, and 21% say they only start on 1 color. So why aren't we all just color neutral? Is it just because our brains just don't recognize a certain pattern when it comes to a different color? What if we all conformed to be color neutral? How would it affect our times? Let's find out. I conducted this experiment where I had Elise, Nathaniel, and myself solving on the same scramble 6 different times. Each time, we started our solves in a different cross color in the following order. The purpose of this experiment was to see how different our times were if you're not used to solving on the given colors. First, we start off with Elise, with her normal cross color, which is white. You can see here that she gets an 11.09, which I'm assuming is pretty normal for her. Next, we have Nathaniel solving his white cross. In this solve, he gets an 11.60. So far, the times are pretty much similar to their averages since they're typically used to it. Comparing these 2 solves to someone who's color neutral, on my solve, I didn't really like the white solution options, surprisingly. Even though it looked easy to do, I figured it wouldn't be my strong suit as I was looking at it in my inspection time. Although things did float kinda nicely in that solve, I just didn't like that cross. My time was 15.62. Moving forward to starting on yellow cross, Elise seemed to have a bit of confusion with her F12 pairs and took really long pauses in between. This is most likely because she's used to filtering out white colors and distinguishing the way the pairs look. They can lead to a bit of disarray because pairs will now look flip-flopped. To explain the analogy a bit better, try solving a yellow cross on the white centerpiece, then insert your F12 pairs. See what I mean? Nathaniel didn't seem to have a problem starting on yellow cross. The time for this solve was 9.45, which is still considered average for him. I also felt the same way during this solve. Yellow was pretty good. Everything seemed nearly perfect and clicked into place, except for that U3 at the ending. I improved to a 12.98. It looks like the same things occur here for the red side as well. This solve looks really similar to her attempt on the yellow cross. Even though her time was a bit faster here, her pauses still seem to remain constant. The last layer was also an advantage point to her time since it's so easy to recognize with the obvious H-shaped OLL case. Then, it smoothly transitions right into a PLL. Nathaniel's solve seemed to have a few pauses and lots of cube rotations. Obviously, that's probably going to be normal, but a little less consistent. As you clearly see in this solve, that didn't stop him from getting an 11.20, which is surprisingly faster than his white cross attempt. On my cubes, I have pink replacing red, just in case you were confused. I tried my best to come up with a decent solution here for the cross, but I ended up losing track of my first pair, so I had to relocate and find another one. Other than that, this was just a normal solve for me, so there was nothing special here involving any part of the solution or any difficulties. Check this one out. The pauses here on orange for her are extremely long. She had to rethink, locate, recognize, and perform these pairs that she obviously is not used to, especially with that last one. It took up about 6.4 seconds worth of her solve. In this solve, he seems to be going a bit slower to try to be more efficient while he's thinking about what's happening. This was a pretty decent solve. There's nothing really special to say on this one. Her fifth solve wasn't too bad. It's definitely an improvement from the previous one. This seems to be a reoccurring pattern now. Now here's Elise's final solve. Next, here's Nathaniel's final solve. Lastly, here's my final solve. Elise's times were interesting. Her average was a 14.66 and her standard deviation was a 2.47, which just indicates how consistent you are within the average. By this graph, it shows that it's almost an alternating pattern that increases each time. It's definitely noticeable that her fastest time was her white cross. Nathaniel's average was a 13.45, and his standard deviation was a 3.51. I would have guessed it would have been better consistency since he's already normally used to solving on two colors. The representation on this graph actually shows the opposite of what Elise had. In fact, it's almost the same thing except mirrored. Nathaniel's fastest time was 9.45 on yellow, which is also one of his main starting colors. For him, it just had a better solution than white. Finally, my average was a 14.43, and it wasn't surprising to me that my standard deviation was a 1.17. My times were actually so close together that it alternates from high to low. My fastest solve was also on yellow, but as I mentioned, look at the other colors, how close they were to one another time-wise. Color neutrality is a great advantage point. How it works is that you're kind of just looking past the idea that it's a different color. You just recognize what's going on. Can someone solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded, being color neutral? In September 2016, I asked the same question to the same group of Facebook users if they were color neutral while solving 3x3 blindfolded. The poll ended up having a total of 127 people participating in it. 90% of the people said that they pick one orientation or color to start the memorization process. 6% say that they pick two or more spots of the cube. And 2% of the people consider themselves fully color neutral while solving blindfolded, including myself. I'll talk about that more in a future video, with a tutorial on how I solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. I'll actually have many tutorials on the way, since I really want to make this channel not for just cubers, but for everyone else who is interested in learning how to solve a Rubik's Cube. Of course, those videos will also be done in a professional manner, just like this. So I have a competition coming up as well on April 15th, where I'll be competing in 2x2, 3x3, pure minx, scube, clock, and blindfolded. You already know my mains from the previous Scrambled episode, but if you haven't already seen it, it's in the description below. I currently average 11 in clock, and I'm looking forward to trying to beat my Florida State record average, which is currently 15.32. That's slow. Well, before I go, I want to give a huge thanks to Elise and Nathaniel for being a part of this month's episode. I couldn't have produced this video without you guys. So, on that note, I hope you really enjoyed this interesting way of looking at color neutrality, and maybe try this experiment for yourself. The Scramble used is also in the description below. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe as always. And speaking of as always, you prime, are prime.